Don't serve my family cheap meals," Bob said as he threw the homemade food I brought into the trash can. I never thought he would do something like this, and all I could do was watch. "Hey, what are you doing? Why would I let you serve us your cooking?" Bob replied with a smile. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. To me, wasting food, no matter who made it, is unthinkable. "You're the worst." Even as I muttered that, I managed to smile. "But it wasn't me who made it." "What?" Bob stopped laughing and looked puzzled. "Then, who did?" "It was made by Julie's grandparents," Henry said, popping his head out from behind me. Bob's expression changed upon seeing him. "Why are you here?" "I'm Julie, a 28-year-old working in a restaurant. This restaurant is run by my grandparents. And someday, I dream of taking it over." "Grandpa, please teach me that secret recipe today." "It's still too early for you, Julie. Our restaurant is famous for Grandpa's special dishes and Grandma's delicate cooking. Both are so popular that we're packed with customers every day." Julie really is all about cooking. Indeed. But I wish she'd do a bit more housework besides cooking. For the record, my parents have jobs unrelated to cooking. Dad is a company executive, and Mom works part-time in an office. Dad, who was raised on this restaurant's flavors, can hardly cook. That's why both my parents and grandparents say it's okay if I don't take over the restaurant. But I love the food here. Grandpa and Grandma are so cool. Really? If Julie says that, I'll have to try even harder. I loved watching my grandparents cook. They even taught me simple dishes I could make as a child, which I then served to my parents. This is delicious. Julie, you're a cooking genius, really delicious. Julie might become a better chef than us. They praised me enthusiastically. From that day, I dreamed of becoming a chef. And now, that dream has evolved into taking over my grandparents' restaurant. That's why I went to culinary school and am now training under my grandparents. What's different from before is how strict my grandparents are with me as an apprentice. Julie, we're not going to coddle you just because you're our granddaughter. Once you're an apprentice here, you'll be treated just like everyone else. That's fine. I'd rather you be strict with me. But I accepted this gladly, knowing it was for my benefit. And so, I work in the restaurant, enjoying a good relationship with my grandparents and the staff. You guys are as usual. Henry's contribution has been significant. He recently started working here and is currently a waiter. His dream is to create delicate flavors like Grandma. So, he observes Grandma's cooking in his spare time and researches with me. Would you like to talk with me for a bit? One of our regulars approached me one day. His name is Bob. He started coming to the restaurant for work and has been a frequent visitor ever since. I'd like to talk to you more. After saying this, he gave me his contact information, and we started communicating privately. Until then, I had only been interested in cooking. So, his responses made me very happy. My grandparents watched over me with a bit of worry. Talking with Julie is so much fun. Would you like to date me? Following his confession, we started dating. Later, he proposed, and we became engaged. Until that moment, I was truly happy. Hey, since we're at it, why not move in together? After getting engaged, Julie and Bob started living together. Originally, I was living alone in an apartment near the restaurant, and then he moved in with me. Living together made me think more about marrying him. However, reality was not as sweet as I had imagined. I'm home. Welcome back. Hurry up and get dinner ready. When I got back from work, Bob would demand dinner without even looking at me. He claims to be running a company, which originally belonged to his father, my father-in-law, to be. A few years ago, his father had to be hospitalized due to health issues, and Bob took over in what seemed like a generational shift. However, since his company mainly operates remotely, Bob works from home. Because of that, he's always at home. But he doesn't do any housework at all. Housework is a woman's job. It's not something a man should do. He seems to think. So, he rarely does any chores. Not just cleaning and laundry, but even meals must be prepared by me, or he gets grumpy. For lunch, if I don't have leftovers ready, he'd complain, "Why didn't you make anything?" Because of that, I had to go out to buy something. Thus, I spent my days running around between work and chores, growing increasingly tired. My complaints about Bob didn't stop there. This place is in Julie's name, so it makes sense for Julie to pay, he'd say, making me cover rent and utilities. Honestly, I began to wonder if marrying him was the right choice. It's cold today, so the roads might be icy. Be careful, Julie. Thank you, Bob. It wasn't all bad. Bob would always escort me and be kind to me outside. He also likes my cooking and says it's delicious. I like the way he looks when he enjoys my food, so despite some doubts, I continue the relationship. Julie, are you okay? You seem tired, aren't you? Seeing me like this, my grandparents voiced their concern. I shook my head in response. I'm fine. I wanted to believe in Bob a little more. That's why I kept my worries to myself. Really? But remember, you can always talk to us. I nodded sincerely to their words. Up to that point, I truly loved him, blinded by love. Hey, Bob, shouldn't we start planning our marriage soon? Yeah, we should. A bit later, I brought up the topic of marriage to Bob. However, his response was vague, and he didn't provide any concrete plans. We should set a date soon. Any time I'm off works for me. His indifferent attitude was evident whenever I tried to advance the conversation. Since he works from home, he doesn't have fixed days off. So when I asked him to share his schedule for planning, he'd send me his days off via message. There was a day off that coincided with the restaurant's day off. How about we choose this day? All right, got it. Bob agreed to my suggestion. We decided to first visit his parents, and then on the next day off, we'd visit my parents. Just thinking about the introduction makes me nervous. I awaited the day with a mix of excitement and anxiety. But then, the day before, something happened. I'm going to be nervous tomorrow. Why? Bob asked, genuinely puzzled by my statement. Because tomorrow is the day we're going to your parents' house for our marriage introduction, remember? Oh, I forgot. I have a meeting with someone from work tomorrow, so let's reschedule. What? I was shocked by his words, and Bob looked annoyed. My work relies on trust, so visiting at my parents' house will have to wait. How about we go to my parents first then? That won't do. It's a priority to visit the husband's parents' house first. Despite my objections, Bob wouldn't budge. As a result, the visit to my parents' house was postponed to what was originally supposed to be the visit to his. I communicated this to my mother with a sense of resignation. Well, that's disappointing, but it can't be helped. My mom said she'd talk to my dad for me. I was expressing my gratitude when she asked, worried, I heard from you folks, are you really okay? It seems she had heard from my grandparents and was concerned. Though I had told my grandparents I was fine. My mom's question made me waver in my decision to marry. Up until recently, I could overlook Bob's faults and truly wanted to trust him. But now, I find myself focusing on his negative aspects, contemplating calling off the marriage. Julie? Brought back by my mom's voice. I shook my head to clear the negative thoughts. I'm thinking of using the marriage introduction to decide. All right, I understand. But remember, whatever happens, your dad and I, as well as your grandparents, are here for you. She reassured me before we hung up. I had hoped to build a happy family with Bob. Everything's going to be okay, right? Yet, I found myself doubting. The next day. I'm leaving. Bob left the house in high spirits. Seemingly happier than when we go on dates, leaving me feeling uneasy. Huh, what's this? A smartphone? My eyes landed on a smartphone left atop the shoe cabinet. Thinking I had time. Huh? I picked it up when I saw a notification from a woman saying, "Can't wait to see you." I froze, and then another message appeared. "Let's hurry up with the wedding plans." The word wedding sent my mind spinning. What's this? What was Bob's relationship with this woman? Just then, the front door opened. Huh? Julie? Bob seemed surprised to see me at the entrance. But his expression quickly changed when he saw his smartphone in my hand. Did you see it? Oh, I noticed your smartphone and thought I'd bring it to you. Then the door opened, and you scared me. I replied quickly, and he visibly relaxed. Returning to his usual kind smile. Thanks. He said, taking the smartphone from me. After he left, I collapsed on the spot. No way! I couldn't shake off a bad feeling. That day, I could do nothing but sit in the living room, overwhelmed by thoughts. What's wrong? Bob eventually came home, asking gently. I managed to smile. I guess I'm just tired. How about we go out to eat today? He suggested, acting as if everything was normal. That's why I wanted to believe in him. However, the next day at work, someone approached me, revealing a shocking truth. Shocked but resolved, I decided it was time to act. On the day of the marriage introduction, I decided to bring homemade food since it was around noon. Can you come directly to my parents' house? I'll be staying over there from the day before, Bob had said, not offering to accompany me. So, I went to the address he had given me. This is the right place, isn't it? It was my first visit to his family home, and I hesitantly rang the doorbell. Bob greeted me with a smile, which eased my nerves. Welcome. What's that? Oh, it's homemade food. I prepared a special menu for today, I said. His face soured at my words. He let me in, but his parents were nowhere to be seen. Hey, where are your parents? Oh. As I was confused, Bob took the bag of homemade food from me and marched to the kitchen. What are you? Before I could finish, he took out the food and aimed it at the trash can. Don't serve my family cheap meals. With that, Bob threw the homemade food I had brought into the trash can. I never imagined he would do something like this, and all I could do was watch. Hey, what are you doing? Why would I let you serve your cooking to someone like you? Bob answered with a smile. Bob answered with a smile to my words. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. To me, wasting food, regardless of who made it, is just unthinkable. You're the worst, I muttered, yet I managed to smile. But I wasn't the one who made it. What? Bob stopped laughing and looked puzzled at my words. Then who did? It was made by Julie's grandparents, said Henry, stepping out from behind me. Bob's expression changed upon seeing him. Why are you here? Well, because I'm also a son of this house, Henry replied with a smile. In fact, Henry was Bob's brother and the one who revealed the truth about Bob. Actually, Bob is my brother, and he tried to crush my dream. Originally aspiring to be a chef, Henry planned to attend culinary school, just like me, but was forcibly put into Bob's company. Though given the title of vice president, he was essentially burdened with running the company. Despite being young and often underestimated, Henry was busy every day. But all the credit went to the president. That's why I finally snapped. He submitted his resignation and fled from both the company and home, eventually finding refuge in our restaurant. Since then, every day was fulfilling until Bob showed up. Worried about being dragged back or harassed, he learned about my relationship with Bob and decided to return to this family home before the marriage introduction. I never thought my parents didn't know anything about the marriage, he said, surprised that our in-laws were unaware of our plans or the upcoming introduction. Today was supposed to be my father-in-law's doctor appointment, so they were not home. An emergency family meeting was called in their absence. As a result, they decided to meet for the introduction over a meal after the appointment, sometime before noon. I can't believe you didn't tell Julie such an important thing. I learned about this not from Bob but from Henry at the restaurant the other day. By then, I was already disillusioned with Bob, but I came today for the sake of his parents who made time for us. Got a call from Dad just now. Looks like the appointment is running late. It seems the appointment was delayed, and they hadn't returned home yet. Bob took this opportunity to throw away the homemade food. Why did he did such a thing? Basically, you just wanted revenge on me for running away, right? So, you don't really love Julie. Am I wrong? Henry's words made Bob flinch. Apparently, Henry had harbored feelings for me. And Bob, upon discovering this after coincidentally visiting the restaurant, deliberately approached me. So, you tricked me into an engagement, but you never really loved me, did you? That's why he treated me carelessly. Thinking it was enough to just be kind, he didn't want to spend money on someone he didn't love, hence not contributing to rent and other expenses. Of course, I was angry at him. So, that is... Bob struggled to find an excuse, his gaze darting around. Yet, throwing away my grandparents' cooking would cause a significant issue for him, something he seemed oblivious to as I smiled again. I'm going to make him pay. My smile was full of determination. And Henry seemed to share the sentiment, smiling similarly. "By the way, I got all of that on video," Henry said, showing Bob the smartphone. The video displayed Bob throwing away the food. Seeing this, Bob wondered why. "Oh, did you forget? What do most people use my grandparents' restaurant for?" "For business." "Right. It's well known enough that many people use it for work." We were astounded that he still didn't grasp the situation. "You might not realize it because you only care about superficial management, but if it gets out that you threw away their food, it'll badly damage your company's image," Henry explained. Bob finally understood, his face turning pale. "I've really done something stupid." Just then, we heard voices and turned to see two people who appeared to be my in-laws. With stern looks on their faces, my father-in-law and a saddened mother-in-law apologized to me and gave Bob a severe look. "I was foolish to leave everything to you. Those restaurant owners have been a great help for years, used by many companies for entertainment. Being frowned upon by that restaurant means a company is in trouble." Bob's act of throwing away food from such respected restaurant owners would likely spell trouble for his company if it became known. "I'll show this video to the restaurant owners. You'll probably be banned, and they'll talk to various companies about it." "What?" Bob went pale and trembled at Henry's words. Then, he looked at me desperately. "Julie, help me!" "Huh?" He clung to me. "Aren't you my fiance? I love you, Julie. Please, help me." To his plea, I showed him a video. It was footage of Bob walking arm in arm with another woman, being affectionate. "Isn't she your real choice? You want to marry her, don't you?" His face went beyond pale to completely white at my question. Yes, Bob had another person he was seriously considering marrying. Perhaps, to him, I was the affair. "I'm calling off our engagement." As I said this, he collapsed on the spot. Ignoring him, I talked to my in-laws. "I'm sorry for causing trouble. Really, I'm sorry." "No, we're the ones who should apologize for causing a fuss." Then, sent off by Henry, I went home. I packed up Bob's belongings and left them outside the apartment. "Is that all his stuff?" "Yes, thank you." Taking only what I needed, I headed to my parents' house. "Thank you for all your help. I'll properly express my feelings another day," Henry said before leaving. I couldn't help but feel a flutter seeing him off. "Henry's a good guy, isn't he?" my mother commented as she emerged from the house. My father also came out, watching Henry's back intently. "You need to improve your judgment in men, not just focus on cooking," he advised. "I'll take that to heart." "No need, he's there for you," my father said, causing my mother and me to exchange glances and laugh together. "Come on, let's go inside. Today, I'll be cooking." "Mom's cooking, I've missed it. Can't wait." As I entered my parents' house with a smile, I had already received a message from Bob saying he couldn't get into the apartment, but I silently blocked his contact. Whatever happened to him was no longer my concern. That thought comforted me. A few days later, Bob rushed into the restaurant. "Julie, help me!" As soon as he saw Bob, Henry stood in front of me protectively. Ignoring Henry, Bob started rambling. "Your dad's company started it, now one after another, contracts are being terminated." I had of course told my father about the situation. Furious, he spoke to the president and decided to terminate the contract. My father's company, a well-known large business locally. Cutting ties meant other companies followed suit, hearing that the grandparents' restaurant was displeased with Bob. "Now my company's in dire straits. Employees are quitting one after another." Those employees were apparently offered new jobs by my father-in-law. Well, they were just victims caught in the crossfire. It's good they could escape from a sinking ship. "Do something. You're the only one who can change this situation," Bob pleaded. Watching him, I wondered why I ever liked him. Probably got carried away because an older man showed interest in me, amidst all the cooking. "Enough already," Henry snapped at him. Not just him, but our staff and regulars glared at Bob too. "You're just facing the consequences of your selfish actions. And yet, you cling to Julie, aren't you ashamed? Shut up! It's all because you quit on your own. And now you're blaming me." "No, it's because you never put in any effort, thinking you'd get everything because you're the president's son." Henry vented his frustration, revealing that Bob had been raised to believe everything would go his way because of his grandparents' favoritism towards the eldest son. Meanwhile, Henry was always told to support his older brother. "That's why I've always been used as a convenient tool for you." Growing up, Henry was burdened with troublesome tasks and robbed of any credit. The in-laws didn't share such beliefs and would scold Bob at times. However, the father-in-law was too busy and ill to keep a constant eye on him. "And you even tried to crush my dream." Bob took over the company when Henry was still in high school. To get him into his own company, Bob deliberately caused a problem that led to the cancellation of Henry's culinary school admission. The issue was nothing more than a rumor fabricated and spread by Bob. When I heard about it, I remembered a rumor I had heard when I was about to go to school. "You know, I heard a kid from a nearby prep school got caught stealing and had their admission revoked. I think they were planning to go to the same school as Julie," a friend had told me. It turned out that the person whose admission was revoked because of Bob's setup was Henry. "Originally, my father wanted someone else to act as the company president. But then my grandfathers intervened, never imagining it would lead to the company's bankruptcy." His father had been ill and it was uncertain when he might have to be hospitalized, so a president's proxy had already been chosen. It certainly wasn't supposed to be Bob, who was still in his 20s. However, the chairman, their grandfathers, meddled and forcibly appointed Bob as the president, also involving Henry in the process. Because of this, it seems the grandfathers are being heavily blamed. "Shut up! It's all your fault! So, the credit goes to you, but the blame falls on me? Have you ever thought about what others would think of that?" Those words made Bob pause and look around. I'll say it again, this restaurant is frequented by business people. That means a lot of Bob's company's clients and related individuals are among them. "Guess that company's done for," muttered a company president who was a regular at the quiet restaurant, as Bob opened his mouth to make an excuse. "You're the kind of man I never want to see again. Don't ever show your face in this restaurant or in front of our granddaughter again." Grandparents shouted as they sprinkled salt. A gesture I thought was wasteful, but no one stopped them. Just as my grandparents said, "Never appear in this restaurant or in front of me again." "I hate you." "I will make her happy." "Clean up your own mess." Our words and the cold stares from around us made Bob run away. Then, as if in approval, everyone applauded Henry, who blushed at the attention. "Well, so, would you like to go out with me?" he said, offering his hand, which I took. More applause broke out, and the grandparents smiled happily. Henry finally spoke up. "Reminds me of us back in the day." "Stop it, you're embarrassing. Let's get back to work," I said, blushing under their warm gazes, prompting laughter around us. Needless to say, Bob's company went bankrupt. He ended up with a huge debt from the compensation and lawsuits from employees Henry had replaced. His parents, unable to help him, sold their house and moved to the countryside. Thus, Bob turned to his grandparents for help. However, already aged and having lost trust due to this incident, they couldn't do anything but run from debt collectors. "Watch the seasoning, Henry." "Okay." Since then, Henry has been officially training under my grandmother. Just like I've been learning secret recipes from my grandfather as his apprentice. The apprentice couple is working hard today. "Hey, we're not married yet." "Not yet means you're planning to, right?" Since that day, we've been dubbed the apprentice couple. Indeed planning on marriage, but shy about it. "I wouldn't have agreed if it were that man, but Henry, I'd entrust Julie to you. When you're truly married, let us taste the food you both make." Henry and I are living together. We left the apartment we used with Bob and moved into one Henry rented. Thus, we've been spending happy days together, returning home together and sharing household chores on weekends. "You're Julie, right?" One day, while returning home with him, a woman approached us. Henry and I recognized her. "You're Bob's." Yes, she was the woman Bob truly wanted. Unaware of my existence, she only learned of the whole affair when Bob clung to her. She apologized to me. "I'm really sorry." "No worries. Please forget about us and find your own happiness." She apologized repeatedly before leaving. Should you let her off that easily? It's fine. She was another victim of Bob's lies. Plus, Her messages helped me gather evidence of his affair. It was because of the message notification from her that day that I was able to conduct an investigation based on her name. I thanked her, not wanting to remember him any further. Besides, I don't want to remember him any more than I have to. Right. And so, we stepped forward towards happiness. Soon getting married. And continuing to live blissfully, thanks to Henry always putting me first. Today, we were taking a test from my grandparents. Yes, you've passed. Yes, with this taste, we can entrust the restaurant to you, said our grandparents, making us jump for joy. Finally, my dream of taking over the restaurant and his dream of becoming a chef were realized. There was also another piece of good news. Soon after, I found out I was pregnant with Henry's child. Thanks to you, Julie, all my dreams have come true. Thank you truly. All of them? Yeah, I was always disregarded by Bob and the grandfathers, so I was determined to build a happy family, to be happier than him. I smiled at his words. Indeed, his dreams had come true. Then, let's strive to be even happier together. Yeah, we've got to let our child taste our cooking too. We could talk about the future with smiles on our faces. Grateful for the days given to us by Henry, I swung my arms today again to cook.